It's a brand new year. Let's talk.
I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be, 'cause I'm free in my RV.
Welcome everybody to the Flagami studio, and today is gonna be one of those rare videos of just me talking. I never do this, but anyways, I wanted to recap the past year, and I wanted to talk about the year ahead, our plans and whatnot, and just a general update. Want to talk about the equipment that I use, what has changed, what hasn't. Not a whole lot has changed, really, to be honest about it. Just mainly the main piece of equipment behind me. That's about it. And I would say 2022 for us was a very well traveled year, as illustrated by this image. I'm gonna put an image here that I pulled off my Google Maps timeline, and all those little dots represent places. And of course, the larger the cluster of dots, the more time we spent in any particular area. And it was a year of firsts as well for us. It was the first year where we both, traveled together full time, which brought its set of rewards and challenges. The rewards are the obvious, right? Being together. Challenges, I had to be more, I had to plan ahead a little better. We had to have internet all the time and scheduling and whatnot. And those are the things, that I think probably besides gas, my biggest expense has been the internet. As you know, I ordered Starlink. I have the residential Starlink. Eventually, I want to see if I can change it to the RV plan, because that one I can pause. With the residential, I basically the month or two that I'm here at home base, I'm wasting that Starlink plan. But still, when there's nothing else and there's no trees, Starlink works great. My second internet was ISP Mint, which truly unlimited. It's almost like being home. It uses the T-Mobile antennas, and it's a little on the expensive side too. But we needed to have those two, belt and suspenders kind of thing, besides our data plans. And as you know, I have two phones, which I'm going to talk about that in the equipment section. I have an Android phone on AT&T, and I have an iPhone on Visible, which is a very inexpensive way to get on the Verizon network, which works really well actually. So to recap the year 2022, I don't even know what year we're in anymore. We spent some time at Pelicamp. We of course did the Florida RV Super Show, which I'm not doing this year, by the way. So if you're going there, and I'm gonna miss you this year, but next year for sure I'm going. In 2023 I'm only gonna do one RV show, and that's probably gonna be Hershey, which is like in mid-September. I don't know the exact dates off the top of my head. We did a little bit of touring here in Florida. We visited Hillsborough River State Park, which it's beautiful. It's a beautiful river. You get all the cypress trees and all that. But like John Huggins, the original Living the RV Dream podcast host, John Huggins and Kathy Huggins, he told me, yeah, Florida is beautiful, but it's kind of all the same. And I would tend to agree. For the most part, there are like three zones in my head for Florida. There's northern Florida, which kind of looks like Georgia. You have like Pelicamp. You have all the oak trees with the Spanish moss, and you have Florida pine and some palmetto. Then you have like the Orlando area, which and just north of Lake Okeechobee, it has these palmettos. They look like the tree in the South Carolina license plates, like that tree. There's a lot of that area around there, north of Lake Okeechobee, between that and Orlando. And then you have South Florida, which is more tropical, more different types of palm tree, royal palms, coconut trees, and that kind of thing. But other than that, Florida is beautiful. But again, you can go to Hillsborough River State Park or go to the Suwannee River State Park, and it's similar. And then, but not this in Florida. This is my state. I love it. This is my home state, but it is what it is, right? We did a little bit of the Emerald Coast after that. Orange Beach, of course. This was kind of the beginning of my relationship with Sun Outdoors, and we visited a lot of their RV resorts, not only in Florida, many places. We did Sun Outdoors, Orange Beach, and sometimes the scheduling didn't work. For example, in Orange Beach, the weather did not cooperate. It was, you know, it was cloudy and rainy the whole time. And then the last day, I actually asked them, I cannot make a video like this. You have to do something about the weather. Give me an extra day. And then the extra day was beautiful, but it was 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So, but we had a great time at Orange Beach, and then of course after that we decided to do the Natchez Trace Parkway. So from Orange Beach, Alabama, we went all the way to Natchez, Mississippi, and we haven't really done much in Mississippi, and we must correct that in the future. But that's one of the main things we did. We did the Natchez Trace at the worst possible time of the year, in the dead of winter. I hear it's much more prettier in spring, so we might do it again one of these days. Of course, I met up at Mike and Jen of the RV podcast, Mike and Jennifer Wendland, and I almost bought a property in Tennessee, but eventually I backed out. I decided not to do it. We did stop along the way, on the Natchez Trace as we continued, because this place where the Wendlands bought property, it's actually kind of close to the Natchez Trace in that area. It's less than an hour drive. To kick off that Lewis and Clark trip, we visited Meriwether Lewis's final resting place there. They have the Meriwether Lewis Memorial. After that, we went to Nashville. We hung out with our friends Greg and Angie, Casita RV Life. You probably met him through my videos. And we went to Chattanooga. Had a great time. Ili had never been to Ruby Falls, so we went to Ruby Falls. And then we spent some time with family in northern Georgia, Pelly camping, and we actually spent quite a while at Penny Camp. I got Minitini all fixed up. The roof was Minitini 1, the original. The roof needed work, so we redid the roof with that material that it's like kind of more permanent. Then in March, I took Mom to Washington, which is actually a rerun that I'm gonna post next week here on the channel. Next Sunday, actually, it's my mom's birthday. So what better way to celebrate her birthday than doing I made a movie about her trip to Washington. And she always wanted to see, ever since she came to Washington in 1958, she wanted to come back and see she wanted to go back and see the cherry blossoms. So we kind of timed it right. And that's one of those things that you cannot plan 3 months ahead of time, because you never know. You never know exactly when they're going to bloom. And they have a prediction, and this year the prediction was kind of off because the weather was very cold actually when we went. And we almost didn't make it. We made it. They were about to fall off the trees when we got there, and she wanted to know. She likes to plan things, and I told her, Mom, we have to go like now, like within the next week. Otherwise, you're gonna see all the flowers on the ground. And we made it. But that was a fun trip. We met up with our friends Jim and Paula, Jim in DC, and we also visited, of course, Monticello, which also was part of my Lewis and Clark trip. That's where President Thomas Jefferson kind of, taught. Meriwether Lewis was his assistant. So Thomas Jefferson kind of taught him everything he knew. And Thomas Jefferson was kind of like a Renaissance man. He invented things and whatnot. Or he liked, he was like, he was a geek of the time. And he taught Meriwether Lewis everything he knew about, botany and the biology and that kind of thing. So I wanted to go there. And then, I took Mom to the Blue Ridge Parkway, because to show her the beauty of this side of the country. I wanted to also show her the beauty of the West, but we might get to do that at some other point. We went to Charleston. My mom fell in love with Charleston. I think she wants to move there. We went to Savannah, and then I wanted to make a beeline back to Miami because that was the week that Starlink got shipped, and I wanted to test it out. So I came to Miami, got the Starlink, got it set up, but immediately, I had to set it up at Pelican because that was my home address. So we just drove to Pelican, and so, yeah, that again we spent some significant time there. I even bought plants for Pelican, like for vegetation. They all died, and that's when I decided to order the carport that I put over Minitini One. And this is what happened. They said that it was going to take 3 months for them to finish. So I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll do the Lewis and Clark trip. By the time we come back, it'll be ready. And then they called me like 3 weeks later. Maybe I misunderstood her. It was 3 weeks instead of 3 months. I don't know. But in any case, that's something else. I went to the Lithionics battery factory and did the tour there as well. And on May 1st, 2022, we departed on the long trip that eventually became the Lewis and Clark trip, right? But, we spent a couple of nights at Pelicamp, and we went to Beverly Beach because, I'm kind of a beach bum. As I mentioned in some of my videos, I grew up on a tropical island. So a beach, is my happy place. I went to Beverly Beach. It's one of those few places where you can actually park the RV right in front of the ocean. It's a little tight. It's not like, but it's nice, and you are like elevated, like on a seawall. That's the only thing that I prefer in other places like Camp Golf, that you just walk on the sand and go to the beach, or like the one that got destroyed, sadly, Red Coconut. Hopefully they'll come back, and I'll be able to get back there. We went to Savannah. We spent Cinco de Mayo in Savannah. That was a lot of fun. Savannah can be a fun town besides historic and beautiful. We met up with a viewer and friend, Steve Loy. He lives there. We zigzagged our way to Atlanta. With again, we spent some time with family. Sun Outdoors, Pigeon Forge. I love Gatlinburg. Pigeon Forge, I'm not that big a fan of, but Gatlinburg is a fun town. It's walkable. You can walk up and down, and the moonshine tastings and all that. It's a tourist trap, but out of all the tourist traps, this one is one I like, and it's right next to the Smoky Mountains. So I got to do one of the main hikes there at the Smoky Mountains National Park, and it's just beautiful out there. We went to Waynesville to visit our friends, Robert and Sue. Robert, of course, was the band leader, the band that I used to play with for many, many years. So it's always good to catch up, and we have some wine. He brings out the maracas, and before you know it, we have a party going on. And about Lewis and Clark, the first time the first reference I ever saw, I think, and I filmed, was in Louisville. When I went to the Falls of the Ohio for the first time, I recognized the names, but I didn't know much about it at the same time. At that time, then in North Dakota, that's when you take 3 steps and there's Lewis and Clark something or another, and I'm like, what? And that's when I decided to do my research and find out what really happened, what was so important about these two guys. And it turns out that they were the first people who crossed the country by land in a sense. They of course took the rivers, which were like the easier ways to haul like a lot of cargo. Otherwise, nothing moved faster than a horse at the time. In any case, first real point of interest in the Lewis and Clark trip, we just drove up the Appalachians spine, depending who you ask, and went to Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry, that's where Meriwether Lewis, where he bought all that's where the armory for the United States was. That's where he bought all the ammunition, all the weapons, all the guns, and he came up with this crazy idea about a collapsible boat. And that, by the way, spoiler alert, the collapsible boat sank somewhere in Montana, and they were never able to use it. Yeah, then we went to D.C., actually, again to Washington, D.C. I wanted to go with better weather with Ely, and we kind of visited the other D.C. We went by the Wharf, which is a beautiful area, kind of reminds me a little bit of Brickell here in Miami, high-rise condos, fancy restaurants, and, you're there by the Potomac River. Actually, it's the canal on the Potomac River, but yeah, it's the same water. Yeah, I don't think it's exactly the Potomac River, but it's the canal, that goes right there. And And we went to eat actually Persian food at Amuse. Chef Sebastian Ovesi, he invited me to his restaurant, and that was probably one of the highlights there. And of course, met up again with Jem and Paula there. From there, I went to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is the new official beginning of the Lewis and Clark Trail, but only Lewis, right? We went to Pittsburgh, to the place where he launched the kill boat. We went to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, by the way, great town, great food. We went to the Ark Encounter, the largest freestanding timber structure in the world, I believe. So we did it from here west. It's like a kaleidoscope across America. And we stopped by Louisville, of course, visited my cousin Juan and the rest of the family, Maria, Lori, and went to Metropolis, Paducah. Paducah is a fun town. Let me tell you, I like Paducah. I like all those murals they have by the river there, and there was a paddle boat. One of these days, I'm getting this crazy idea of doing like a paddle boat cruise in one of the major rivers in the United States. Could be the Columbia, could be the Mississippi, could be the Missouri, could be the Ohio, or a combination of. We went to St. Louis, of course. That's the official beginning of the Lewis and Clark Trail, where the permanent party, as they call it, that's when they departed. And they have, the Gateway Arch. St. Louis was a lot of fun. And even more fun, I think, was Kansas City. Kansas City, just because St. Louis I had been before, and Kansas City I had been before, but it was in 2020 where everything was kind of closed. Kansas City is where I'm getting this idea about doing a series about great American cities that I'm going to do at some point. I really want to highlight, and not only the obvious like New York, Miami, I don't know, Atlanta, which we're going soon, but Omaha. Minneapolis. There's so many great American cities in this area, that everybody calls flyover country, kind of in between the Mississippi and the Rockies. And there are a lot of cool places, I really want to explore Boise, Idaho, for example. I've heard great things. I've been there in passing twice, but I do want to visit all these places. Omaha is the next place that we visited. And in Omaha, of course, they have the official visitor center for Lewis and Clark. Sioux City, where they have the Sergeant Floyd's monument, the only person who died during the Lewis and Clark expedition, and he died of appendicitis, of all things. We went to Yankton. There's a Lewis and Clark Lake, very nice. Pierre, another city that I was pleasantly surprised. Very quiet. It's a small capital, but you have the Missouri River right there, and it's I just got a great vibe from Pierre, and same from Bismarck. I mean, I don't think the Dakotas get enough love, but there's a lot to see and do in the Dakotas, and the people are super nice. And Bismarck was another pleasant surprise. Those people, they know how to enjoy their river. From there we took a detour, went to Medora. And as you know, we did the Medora musical, and that's the gateway to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, where I had been before, but not with Ely. So I wanted to share all those places that I've been when I did the solo travel at the beginning of my YouTube career, and some of those places I wanted to share with her. We went through Montana, eastern Montana. We kind of drove through, but Great Falls, another fun town. It's not a busy city by any means, but we had a lot of fun there. We liked it. The falls are beautiful, and they have a nice vibe. Three Forks, we didn't do much. At that time, we were already kind of racing against time because a couple of things happened that we had to make a huge detour. It's not a detour like 100 miles. No, we did a detour, pretty much a cross-country detour. So from Three Forks, basically, all we did was go to the headwaters of Missouri. They took a picture. I've been there, done that. And we had to zoom back east. I mean, we stopped in Billings and hung out with Mike and Barbie. By the way, they have this super cool Class C RV inside. It looks like a log cabin, and we mooch docked there with them in Billings. And We had a great time. And then, well, I did one more point of interest in the Lewis and Clark Trail, which is Pompey's Pillar, and then we kind of hightailed it to, well, first it was the Winnebago Grand National Rally. We had already committed to go there, and I thought that by then I was going to be finished with Lewis and Clark, but everything takes longer than you anticipate. And then, Joe from Joe Ferry Chevrolet in Orangeburg, South Carolina, he calls me, hey, your car is already on a train on its way from Mexico. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I might as well go all the way back east. As part of that detour, of course, things that you haven't seen yet, and you're probably not gonna see. I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna get to edit those until sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. We did. I spent like a whole 2 weeks in the Black Hills of North Dakota. I mean, we started at Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and then went all the way. We did pretty much everything that there is to do in that area except Wind Cave. We're gonna save Wind Cave for another time, but we did Custer State Park and the Badlands and Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse. And I'm sure that, I mean, there's always more to see and do, but we did a lot. And and then that's when we went to the Grand National Rally. We came down to Orangeburg and traded the Colorado for the Silverado Starship. You've seen it already in a couple of videos. And I was already, the guys who were putting up the roof over Minitini one, they had been calling me already, like, and I'm like, I'm out of town. I'll let you know as soon as I get home. And then, I called them, and within like a week, they came and they put up the structure, which it's in summer, that Florida sun, it's brutal, and it's good to have your RV protected from the elements. Let's just put it that way. And this is, I was in touch with Mom because I wanted to take her cross country in the new truck and the new RV, and I also had certain commitments with Sun Outdoors. I had promised them, that I was going to do these 3 resorts, and that the plan was to do them right after Lewis and Clark. The plan was that everything got delayed, and at the last minute, I'm like, okay, we're going to do them 3 in a row, and then we'll spread them out in 3 months throughout the end of the year. And one of them was Rocky Mountains. One of them was the one in California, Paso Robles. I keep saying Paso Robles because I'll explain. And the other one was Coos Bay. And I wanted to take Mom and at least show her the Rockies, do the cross-country thing. But, she wasn't feeling very well during those days, so she couldn't make it. So I made that beeline solo. And Colorado was great. We did Rocky Mountains National Park and Sun Outdoor Rocky Mountains. In Utah, I did State Route 12. I actually put the new truck to the test. I had never had a 4x4 vehicle, so I'm like, all right, let's do the Schaefer Trail, which is a famous, overlanding trail there. But it was pretty bad because it had been raining for a couple of days, so the road was not very well maintained. So if there was a place to test the new truck, that was it. Paso Robles, of course, which I keep calling it Robles because in Spanish, Robles, oaks, and that's actually when you get into town, it's the name of the town is in Spanish. I believe it's called Ciudad del Paso de los Robles or something like that. So Paso Robles, I know it's pronounced Robles in English, and a lot of fun. We went to Pismo Beach. I fell in love with Pismo Beach. Morro Bay was great. And we did a part of the Pacific Coast Highway, mainly the one place that everybody complained that I didn't do back in when was it, 2011, when we did the Pacific Coast Highway for the first time in the California Cruiser, that I didn't stop in Santa Cruz. We stopped in Santa Cruz kind of briefly, but we really enjoyed the Santa Cruz. We're definitely going back to Santa Cruz probably this year, actually. Maybe even this winter. Drove through San Francisco, stayed in Petaluma, of course. I visited Lagunitas Brewery and Twit. Twit is nothing to do with Twitter. It stands for This Week in Tech, and that was one of the first tech podcasts that actually ever existed. Leo Laporte of Tech TV, he started it, and we went there. We did a little bit of the We did the redwoods, of course, because I had been there, but Illy had never seen it. So we went to the redwoods, went to a couple of different places, and then continued to Coos Bay for the Sun Outdoors video that I did there. And then that's when we decided, okay, let's finish Lewis and Clark. That's why you haven't seen any videos from Utah, California, or Oregon, or the Oregon coast, because we're gonna save those for later, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes here. We did Crater Lake, which also I'm saving it for that series that is gonna be probably like the Lost Summer 2022 tapes or whatever I decide to call it. We retook the Lewis and Clark, resumed it at the Lewis and Clark Caverns, which Lewis and Clark never went there, but it has their name, and the Jefferson River is there where they actually did go. And eventually we finished that Lewis and Clark trail. That's the video you saw last week. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. And then we did another section of the Oregon coast, Bend, Oregon. We actually even went to the last remaining blockbuster video, and then I made another beeline for Indiana. Zoom back across the country for the Winnebago open house. They wanted me to feature, some of their new trailers, the new floor plans that they have. In fact, whenever we get Minitini 4, it is going to be, if we call it Minitini 4, I think I have to at this point, it's going to be one of those floor plans that I saw at the open house. And then in November last month, we went to the Florida Keys, and we were definitely overdue. We hadn't gone to the Florida Keys since, like a proper visit, since before 2020. And Key West still has its charm. Things change over the years, but I just love the Florida Keys. I've been I'm not a native Miamian, but I might as well be. I've been here for over 30 years. 34 or 33, 34 years, right? 1988, you may do the math. And it's the Keys have been my backyard for this whole time, right? I love the Keys. I used to just take US 1, or now I take the Turnpike, and you're there, you're in Key Largo in less than an hour, and in 3 hours without traffic, you're in Key West. So, and currently I am doing a video about Miami. This is gonna be like Christmas in Miami, and you're gonna see that next in a couple of weeks, actually. So that's that's what I'm thinking. And this year, part of the plan is to have fun. After the Lewis and Clark series, this highbrow historical series and whatnot. I don't want to take myself too seriously this year, and we're still gonna do history, of course. I'm a history buff and this and that, but I just want to visit fun places. And I'm thinking maybe the Lewis and Clark. I know a lot of you loved the Lewis and Clark series, but maybe it has like and it's gonna be there as an evergreen, but maybe it didn't have the mass appeal, that I was hoping for, which is totally good. Sometimes you have to do things that because you want to do them, and this is something that I wanted to do ever since actually I came up with the idea when I visited North Dakota back in 2020, and at some point I want to do the Oregon Trail and the California Trail and other things. So beginning with this year, as I said, we're gonna relax, have a good time, kind of take our shirt off as we did in Key West, and there are 3 major trips for 2023. The first one is going to be the West. And it's going to be, at the beginning, mostly quartzite. That's like the main anchor point. But I want to do some California, some Nevada, maybe even Utah, going to Utah. Do some of the great American cities. Atlanta, maybe. We're going to spend like 2 days in Atlanta. Dallas, for sure. San Diego, maybe as well. Dallas is gonna be the main one. I want to spend like 3 or 4 days in Dallas. Never been. San Diego, I kind of passed by. Atlanta, I've kind of passed by. And if there's another city in the middle, I'm not gonna do Phoenix this time around, but I'll do Phoenix at some point. And as far as the great American cities go, I may not do all the popular tourist attractions. Like, I don't really feel like going to the Georgia Aquarium or the San Diego Zoo or the world of Coca-Cola. I may not. So that's kind of the winter plan. Then in spring, I'm thinking Spain. I'm really thinking Spain. I even already found an RV rental place. They have probably a nice Class B that we're gonna take around Spain. And my idea is to spend a month in Spain, so we'll see. And then the summer, Alaska, and that one I haven't planned at all. Really, I haven't done any major planning, but that is the plan. Go to Alaska. I'm gonna rewatch all the videos of all the other YouTubers that came before me doing at Alaska, and we're gonna do that. And then after Alaska, we're probably gonna drive through Canada back east, Hershey RV Show. I'm gonna stop in Ohio, Michigan, and after that, we'll see. And those are kind of the plans for 2023. And if we get to do half of it, I'll be grateful, right? And now before we go, and I think I already spoken too much, right? I don't usually speak this much. I'm gonna show you a little bit of the equipment that I use. A lot of you ask me, and a lot of you already ask me, what kind of cameras do you use, and this and that. And always, my main camera for with the zoom, with with the zoom lens, and my go-to camera, it's this one. And actually it's the same one that I'm filming with. And you may ask, why you have two? Well, I have three, but the only one that works properly is this one. They're good, but these cameras, I really don't treat them with a lot of care. I throw them in the bag, I bring them out quickly, I just flip the screen open, and this one, the battery is dead apparently. And this is what happens. This is the Achilles heel, or can I say that? There's a wire, that connects this screen to the camera, and that wire eventually the screen still works, but the touch screen stops working. So if I ever want to change any settings or format a card or do anything like that, the only way to do it is through the touch screen, and they tend to die. And the other thing, when you flip the screen, it's supposed to flip the image, and it stopped flipping the image as well. So I did with this one. I did the whole Lewis and Clark trip and all that, but I decided to, and this is discontinued. Sony doesn't make it anymore, so I decided to get a third AX53 just to get me through a couple more years, because I haven't been able to find a proper substitute for this. There are cameras that look much better, but this one has, you've seen the zoom lens that I have on this camera, and it has a variable speed zoom that is easy to use. So sometimes I can zoom in quickly or I can zoom in slowly. It's not perfect, but it's a good camera. The one that I use the one that I use for selfie video is still, and this is something new that I got. Let me remove the new thing that I got. This is a GoPro 9. I was super tempted to upgrade to a GoPro. Hold on, can you hear me? I was super tempted to upgrade to a GoPro 11 this year, but I've been watching videos, and I don't think that the video quality is substantially better. So I'm sticking with this one. It's got a cracked screen in the back, but it's no longer waterproof, but it works. I have the media mod, so it gives me relatively good audio. I could use a microphone as external mic, wireless, as you do, but the way that I do things, I like to keep it simple. And if I have to prepare too much for my shot, I lose my spontaneity. So I just grab this one, click, and I just record myself. And that's how I do it. It is a good camera. It records in 5K, so if I ever need to get a little tighter, zooming a little bit, I could without losing quality. And my newest acquisition is this. It's the light kit for the GoPro, because one of the one bad thing about the the GoPro 9 and all GoPros in general excuse me, the GoPros is that the low light performance is like really bad. And this one is not bad, but in GoPro it is. Now what I still use for the trailer camera, and I have 3 of these that I put on the roof of the trailer, is a GoPro 7. And if I need to do any underwater photography, this is also the one that I use. I'm trying to look for my Sony and I can't find it. Yeah, I don't have it here with me, but it is the Sony X3000, and this camera is that little white Sony, and that one I have I used to use it as a dash cam. I don't do that anymore. I came up with a great idea when I was at Glacier National Park back in 2020, and I put one of these GoPros actually on the roof of the truck, so I don't get any glare from the windshield, or I don't have to do any color correction or anything like that. So that's the one that I use now. Whenever I do like a selfie video of me talking while I'm driving, that's the one that I use for that. It's usually permanently there on the truck, unless I'm in a bad neighborhood, and then I remove it, and we don't want to tempt anybody to break into the car. There's another camera that I almost forgot about, and that is gravity. Yeah, this microphone is top heavy, so whenever I move, the microphone flips. It's a design flaw on these roads. But the other camera, by the way, that's the Rode Mini, the original one that I still use, and it's a good wireless mic if you ever need a wireless mic. Okay, the other camera is the Insta360. I almost forgot to tell you about it, and that's the camera that I use sometimes during hikes or riding the bicycle. And it almost looks like a drone is following me, because it comes with this attachment, which is they call it the invisible selfie stick. And it's a pretty long selfie stick. And the camera has 2 lenses. It's a 360 camera. It has 2 lenses, and they overlap a little bit apparently. And that overlap they use through software, erase, the part where the selfie stick would be. It doesn't work very well with objects that are close to the camera, but everything, like 3 feet up to the horizon, it does a great job, giving you that, that whole 360-degree image, all around. And the one new piece of equipment this year that has really changed the way I do things is the Mac Studio. I got the Mac Studio computer. My old MacBook Pro, it was a good computer. It wasn't that old for a Mac. It was like 4 years old. But it started getting slow, and it started overheating a lot. I don't know what's up with that. So I heard good reviews about the Mac Studio, so that's what I got, and that's what I'm gonna take on the road now, which kind of complicates things a little bit, because I don't have the room for these 2 27-inch monitors inside Mini Teeny, so I had to get 2 smaller monitors for Mini Teeny. But I've gotten so used to editing with 2 monitors. I usually have my editing software here, and I have a monitor in full screen in 4K, the image, whatever I'm editing. Now I'm only going to be able to monitor it in 1080p, which is fine. But yeah, it is whatever the other computer, for example, took an hour, in here is 10 minutes, like for the processing. So that is great. That has been the biggest upgrade I've done in 2022. And I almost forgot to mention the drone. I still have the same drone. The drone is the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom. Still works well. That's what else do I use? Of course, the best camera, as I say, is the one that you have with you all the time, and that will be an iPhone, or in my case, as I told you at the beginning, I have 2 phones, and this one actually I have it on a battery case. So, but this is my go-to phone, my favorite phone that I've had since 2018. So 4 years and going, and almost 5. It's gonna be 5 years this year, and yeah, it's getting a little old, a little long in the tooth. But to me, this is like the perfect form factor phone. It's almost full screen, but without notches or pills or dynamic islands. They kind of did it right with this phone, and it's it's symmetrical in the back. It has the the fingerprint reader in the back. I like it. This is a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus or Max or whatever it was called. It's the large one. And I like the fact that it still has a headphone jack, and you can put an SD card and expand the memory. Yeah, I'm old. What can I say? You know, I think this is when we reached peak phone with all the features. And after this, they started removing features. I mean, some people don't like features, I guess. I don't know. It's whatever it's not what we want. Is what the companies in their wisdom decided to do that we need, right? And I think this was the moment where they started. Android phones started copying all the bad things about iPhone. And that was the time when iPhone started copying all the good things about Android, to the point that right now they're very comparable. And I'm seriously thinking about upgrading my main phone to iPhone, mainly because of the camera. There are certain annoyances about iOS that I don't like, but the cameras on the iPhone, especially for video, nothing comes close. And I need it for video sometimes when I'm in a restaurant, and I don't want to be like the conspicuous guy, with the big camera. I just use my iPhone, especially to take a video of the food. The GoPro is not great at close distances. This is a fixed focus lens. This is not an autofocus lens. So if you want to get close to something, macro on the phone is great. So as I said, I have the two. I have one Android on AT&T, and the iPhone is on Verizon, just to have an extra choice of. And this is an iPhone 11, and I was this close to getting the iPhone 14, but I'm gonna wait for the iPhone 15 because rumor has it that it's gonna have a USB Type-C port, and they're gonna be able to sideload apps, and that's something that Android has always been able to do, but. That's the news that I read. Side loading, meaning that you don't have to buy it from or download it from the App Store. You can download it from Robert Morales' app.com or what, if that ever exists. So that's it for this video. I hope 2023 brings you health, joy, and enjoy it with family. Enjoy travel as much as possible. It's such an eye-opening experience being able to travel and see in different places and see it with your own eyes, not on TV, not what people tell you it is like. Experience it, experiencing things for yourself. It's 3D, It's 3D. I really hope. I'm really looking forward to 2023 and all the travels that I have planned. And I think it's gonna be great. No, so next week's video is going to be my mom's birthday celebration. I'm gonna do the movie Travels with Mom, and then the following week we're going to Key West. Actually, no, we're going to another key right before Key West. That's a bucket list destination, and I'm gonna tell you how to get it. How to be able to make that hard to do reservation. Then Key West, and then we're gonna do my hometown of Miami, and that's why I'm doing this video. So I don't want to be stressing out on the road about the upcoming video that I have to edit and upload during this trip. I'm going back to the original plan, and now I go to Atlanta. Before going to Dallas, I'm gonna have that Atlanta video edited, uploaded, everything done to it, and then I get to enjoy a different place. But on YouTube, I have 3 videos already uploaded. I have a 3-week kind of buffer, if you will. So that's kind of the plan for this upcoming trip. I don't want to be in Atlanta or in Quartzsite, for example. In Quartzsite, I'm still editing something from Indiana. I want to be current and be able to share all that with you through stories, shorts, and all that all together at the same time. I think it's going to be great. And that's it. Until the next one. Thank you so much for watching. And see you on the road. Happy New Year!
I'm riding in my